Good evening, Lake Forest, and welcome to the Monday, May 20th, 2019 session of Lake Forest City Council. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Certainly. Honorable Mayor Lansing.
Here.
Alderman Beidler.
Here.
Alderman Morris.
Here.
Alderman Newman.
Here.
Alderman Rummel.
Here.
Alderman Reisenberg.
Here.
Alderman Preschlack.
Here.
Alderman Moreno.
Here.
Alderman Bushman.
Here.
Mr. Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Will you all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item is reports of city officers. I have some comments. The first is concerns a resolution of appreciation for John Tiddell, owner of Smith's Men's Store, who is here tonight. There he is, right there, our John. City Clerk Boyer, is there a resolution for my mitts? Yes. I don't have, no, we'll get the real deal here. We'll wait 1 minute here. You know what we could do, Jed Morris? Sure. Is go to the second item I was going to bring up, which is concerns approval of a First Amendment to the restated agreement pertaining to the Gorton property, which is owned by the city and in a fundamentally a lease agreement with the Gorton Foundation for its use. And that was done some years ago, and there was a need seen to update it in a number of respects. And Alderman Morris led that, working closely with the Gorton board. So Jed, maybe a few comments. It's in the council packet, and we could move ahead on considering this.
Sure. When the Gorton board was reformatted, I think it was in 2013, there was a requirement for 1/3 of the board members to be appointed by the city council, with one of those being the finance chairman. And as Gorton has become more and more successful and their endowment has increased, they've also increased the number of board members, and it was always 1/3, so it's gone from 5 to 7 board members, and that's difficult to recruit that many city board members. And in light of the success that they've had, we felt it was appropriate to reduce that number from 5 to 3. So the amendment pertains to that reduction, continuing to have the finance chairman be one of the city directors for further continued oversight. But the Gorton organization is doing extremely well. Financially, I think they have almost $5 million in their endowment. So this is an appropriate change.
Yeah, and that really is the core of the change, plus cleaning up various things. When Alderman Morris uses the phrase oversight, as successful as we hope these foundations become on the various city properties that they occupy, it is important that they succeed, and we just think it's a responsibility of the city to have some representation on these boards and have a reporting requirement about budgets and capital renewal of the building and that sort of thing, just so the city can discharge appropriate responsibility over these city-owned assets. The proposed changes are in the council members' packets. Are there any particular comments, questions?
Thank you.
Alderman Moreno.
Alderman Morris, I'm not really clear on the budgeting process and the allocation of future capital requirements to maintenance over the longer term. Are those decisions and is that function all within the Gorton board?
It starts there, but it eventually comes to the city council. So they have we also share a 5-year capital planning effort with them because the city public works staff is responsible for the outside of the building. The Gordon organization is responsible for the inside of the building. So they, with us, the city, have a 5-year capital plan that's reviewed each year and it becomes part of the city's budget. And then each year they submit a expense budget to the city in November. So that first gets approved by their board and voted on and oversight by those city directors. Then in November, it comes to us for oversight and approval. If that answers your question.
It
The-
does.
The capital planning is very detailed. It's an Excel spreadsheet that goes for many, many lines. And it's been, the Public Works Department's done a really good job of maintaining their part of this and making recommendations on the inside if there should be any elevator issues or air conditioning issues or any of those kinds of things.
And reporting to the audit committee has been going on for many
Right,
years. I remember when I was on the committee,
Right,
we saw Garton's reports.
So-
That's just a continuation then.
right. Yeah, nothing on that level has changed. Although we did put in a provision that, like the city, we'd like to see a 5-year financial forecast, which they did last year as the first year. And they've also done a strategic plan, which they'll be presenting to us, a 5-year strategic plan. So we have a chance to look out into the future as they become more and more successful. The question becomes, where do they go? What's the strategy for the long term for Gorton? And
Thank
that's an
great.
interesting question, but they've done a really good job of putting together a strategic plan, which we'll hear about in short order.
Beautiful, thank you.
I have a question. Jed, so this is for Gorton.
Correct.
Is this going to be the template for the operating agreement then for other city-owned properties? For instance, a Ragdale, Elloa, perhaps?
Yes, that's our plan. We haven't met specifically at that point because we're still in the budgeting process for LOA, so we wanted to resolve that. But that's going to be our next discussion as to how to reformate those oversight petitions. And all of the city, and George hasn't been part of this discussion yet, so we need to bring the new mayor into it. But that's our thought, is we have a standard operating plan and organizational format for those city-owned entities.
That seems to make an incredible amount of sense.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, the bones of it have been there for a long time, but I just think there's actually a list of city-owned assets that foundations and other groups occupy and maintain per the terms of their leases, and it's just appropriate to take a few more formal steps about how that all works, and early warning signals through reporting and
Absolutely.
so forth.
Absolutely.
I just had a brief comment, and Alderman Morris and I spoke earlier. I just was having trouble piecing together what the changes were, not having a copy of the overall Gorton agreement. And I'm just accustomed to when you're amending something, you have the original agreement to go back to look at. So it raised some questions in my mind, which we have discussed, and one of them had to do with the role of the city's audit committee and the city council and how that was going to interplay, because there is a portion there that says that the financial plan will be approved by the audit committee. And I wanted it to be made clear that the final approval is with the city council and not the audit committee. And Alderman Morris informs me that that will be the case, but
Yeah.
we're not going to upset this current agreement to make that change. So but I do think we need to have a public understanding that that's how it will be working.
Sure. And when they come back with their strategic plan, I think we can talk about it. And I'd like the Director of Finance, Elizabeth Hub, to be part of that conversation with us, so.
Yeah, Jed, I'm just wondering on the, and I guess this would be true of the other organizations as well, and in general, this doesn't have to happen at this point in time, your answer, but I'm curious about, so when the city appoints representatives for these boards, I assume each of these organizations has a job description for board members. Does that same job description accrue to our representatives, or do they actually have a different function? I know there were notations here about
Yeah, we included, we created a job description. There hadn't actually been a job
So
description for
that's the
city
one that's
director.
specific for the city.
Right, for the city director.
Then would
but there-
that supersede any other job description for board members of Gorton?
No,
It differs in
no.
the sense that the city director is not obligated to contribute funds or to raise funds on behalf of
Okay,
the
so that's the main
organizations.
difference. Okay.
They can contribute if they choose to, but they're not required to solicit funds,
Okay, okay,
contributions.
Okay, okay.
So that was,
That,
that
but
had not
that,
been.
that wasn't addressed in the things that I saw,
Well,
was it?
it was in the sense it was a
That it was
new-
omitted.
a new job description that had not existed for a city director.
Got it.
So we crafted that. It parallels pretty much the normal Gorton director responsibilities, except as it relates to contributions and fundraising.
Okay, thank you, that's very
Well,
helpful.
thank you for all the progress that you've
Yeah,
made on
that's
this.
great.
I know that
That's
it's
great.
been a long time coming.
Serve us well in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Jed, from his finance chairs, led this, and it's a good oversight, good plan for oversight, I think. Are there any more questions or comments? If not from council, any comments from the audience regarding the proposed amendment of the, of this agreement with the Gorton property? Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion and a second.
Second.
This is a roll call vote.
Alderman Beidler.
Aye.
Alderman Morris.
Aye?
Alderman Newman.
Aye.
Alderman Rommel.
Aye.
Alderman Reisenberg.
Aye.
Alderman Preschlack.
Aye.
Alderman Moreno.
Aye.
Alderman Bushman.
Aye.
8 yeas, 0 nay, motion carries.
Thank you. We'll go now back to the business, the first business here. A resolution. John, you can remain seated during this. Whereas John Tedell, a Lake Forest resident and the owner of Smith's Men's Store, recently announced his upcoming retirement and the closure of his store, and whereas John has served the community as first an employee and later the owner of Smith's Men's Store over the course of 47 years, and whereas John, through his careful selection and offering of high-quality menswear, assured that generations of Lake Forest residents were dressed to impress, that's in quotes, for work, school, recreational activities, and many special events, including the Lake Forest High School prom. And whereas John, despite changing retail trends, remained loyal to our community, owning and operating Smith's Men's Store for decades. And whereas John not only offered a personalized shopping experience, but also friendship to all who entered his store. And indeed he did. Whereas John and Smith's Men's Store will be missed and remembered, and now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Lake Forest that the council, on behalf of the entire community, hereby expresses its sincere appreciation and gratitude to John Tedell for a public and community service faithfully and selflessly performed, and extends our best wishes to John in retirement. And be it further resolved that the city clerk be and hereby is instructed to deliver a copy of this resolution duly signed by the mayor to John Tedell on this 20th day of May, 2019. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? John, please come on up for a picture.
He was in high school with me.
Of course, the resolution mentions John was there 47 years, but the store itself is older than that, isn't it, John? Isn't the store older than 47 years?
Yeah, it's been in town since 1937.
Yeah,
Smiths, yeah.
wow.
Brooks' dad started it. Also,
Jackie, yeah.
I think not sure the population of the city was 2,000 in 1930. All right,
have a great night. Thank you.
all right. Thank you, John. Next item are comments by the city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. I will save my report for tonight's second session, so that will conclude my comments for this evening.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Next item of business is opportunity for citizens to address council on non-agenda items. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak? Please identify yourself.
Good evening, Dan Rogers from Lake Bluff. Actually, I stand here tonight as the retired president of the Rockland Fire Protection District. I'm here on behalf of myself and Trustee Grum, and I'm here to thank Mayor Lansing, the City Council, Bob Kiley, and Chief Siebert. We took on an over 3-year project to come together with Lake Forest and Libertyville to create an intergovernmental agreement that through a lot of hard work and high emotions, netted a 20-year agreement between Rockland Fire Protection District, City of Lake Forest, Village of Libertyville, and Libertyville Fire Protection District. That in and of itself, to get 4 people to agree on anything nowadays, I thought was a pretty good accomplishment. The entire Knollwood community, in our humble opinion, is fortunate to have this partnership with Lake Forest. The partnership / consolidation added needed funding to Lake Forest and provided the community of Knollwood with professional firefighters and EMS service, which I am here to tell you I'm personally grateful for. This was a tough undertaking, and I'm really, really proud that it's done. It's been in place now for several months. I feel Chief Siebert and Chief Karani have worked out the few bugs that are there. And as we left, I know that it's in good hands, and I cannot express my appreciation to you, Mayor, for the time you took with me, and Chief Siebert was really, he spent a lot of time with rookies on putting things together to make it work. The fact that we were able to move an engine and the ladder truck to Lake Forest, again, was a hurdle. We got to work with the government, the federal government, and that was something in and of itself. We had to be creative to make them happy to move the ladder truck, but we managed to do that as well. So that's really it. I'm on my way out as well as some of you are, and I just wanted to extend my thanks. I'm going to head to Libertyville for their meeting in the next week or so and thank them as well. It was a big project. It'll be 20 years, I think at the end of 20 years, it'll be easy to renew this and continue forward. And thank you to each and every one of you, and especially thanks to Chief Siebert for all of his hard work. So thanks very much.
Well, Dan, thank you.
Yes.
You know, it was a lot of hard work. I mean, it's often said the hardest thing to undo in life is a government agency or bureau. I think the second hardest thing is to get them to combine and work for efficiency. And so it really took extraordinary leadership, and hats off to the respective, I think, city managers, but particularly Chief Karani and Chief Siebert in their professional life to do something which was unusual but warranted. And for you, sir, a true profile in community courage. Because this was, I guess, a somewhat closely divided issue within Knollwood and their sense of community and lots of different issues and emotions. But you saw the future, and certainly we've thought for a long time that this was the right thing to do for everyone involved. And you really put up with a lot. Few people I have ever known have put up with what you have. So thank you for stepping forward. I didn't know you were coming tonight, but really, the hat goes off to you.
Well, thank you very much for the kind words, and I'm ecstatic that the partnership is there. And again, the community is so fortunate, even those that are still emotionally tied to it, that don't realize what an incredible group of professionals that show up when we're called, or when Lake Forest is called. My mom lives in the Lake Forest area, and my aunt lives in the Libertyville area, and it's really been great. And I hope that what we all created down the road allows Lake Forest and Libertyville to come closer together on fire and EMS. The costs are huge, and to maybe be that little link that brought Lake Forest and Libertyville together as well, I hope will serve the entire area.
Well, someone always has to be first, and as far as I'm concerned, Dan Rogers was first.
Well, thank you all. Thank you very much. Have a good
All
evening.
right, thank you. Anyone else like to speak to council? Seeing none, I'll go to the next item, which is items for omnibus vote consideration. We have only 16 today. It's still early in the fiscal year, so lots to,
Why should your last one be short?
I know, and I'm told by council I have to read all these, so. First, approval of the April 15, 2019 City Council meeting minutes. Number 2, approval of the check register for the period of March 23rd to May 3rd, 2019. 3, approval of fiscal year 2020 personnel policies and administrative directives. 4th, consideration of a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a conservation easement assignment relating to Lot 4 of the McCormick Nature Preserve subdivision. 5, authorization for the city manager to enter into a professional services agreement with MIST Environment for sustainability consultant services for a period of 3 years. An award of bid in the amount of $32,520 to Henriksen for the replacement of 65 chairs in City Hall on the first floor and second floor. 7, approval of an amended contract for fiscal year 20 GIS services to MGP Inc. in the not-to-exceed amount of $203,422. 8th, approval to execute a grant agreement by and between the Illinois Department of Natural Resources and the City of Lake Forest through the Open Space Land Acquisition and Development Program to complete an improvement project at South Park. 9, authorization for the city manager to enter into a professional services agreement with Hitchcock Design Group for professional landscape architectural services associated with the South Park Grant Improvement Project for an amount not to exceed $70,000. 10, approval of the city's tennis court usage policy. 11, approval of the request from the Parks and Recreation Board for the 2019 10-year strategic master plan document. 12, consideration of ordinances approving recommendations from the Building Review Board. This is a first reading, and if desired by council, can be a final approval. 13, consideration of an ordinance approving a recommendation from the Zoning Board of Appeals. This is also a first reading, and if desired by council, final approval. 14, consideration of an ordinance approving a recommendation from the Historic Preservation Commission. Also a first reading, and if desired by council, final approval. 15, authorization for the city manager to enter into a 3-year professional services agreement with Lake County Press in an amount not to exceed $26,760 per fiscal year for professional services related to the quarterly printing and mailing of the City Dialogue community-wide newsletter. Number 16, City Council approval to waive competitive bidding requirements and authorize the purchase up to $57,000 in seed and plant materials for the North Beach ravine via multiple vendors. As we've done before, we can remove any item to be picked up and voted on separately, but short of that, are there any particular questions or thoughts There's background on all this in the packet. Mr. Reisenberg, are you tired of listening to me?
I'll never be tired of listening to
Oh,
you,
yeah.
Mayor. I don't want to call out number 7, but I want to call out number 7, the 10-year master plan for Park and Rec.
That's number 11.
Is that 11?
Yeah.
Okay, number 11.
Hard to keep track.
I just think it's too important a document, with 172 pages of very professionally done master plan, to have this on the omnibus agenda. Now, I don't mean for us to cover this tonight. But I think it should be a separate half a meeting, like, I mean, this is as important, I think, as to a kind of a budget presentation. And I'm not, to tell you the truth, I think maybe you should go off-site for this thing, believe it or not. I think it's that important, but it shouldn't be on our omnibus agenda this
yeah.
evening, right?
Fair thought. I wouldn't mind that, although
We ain't gonna do it tonight.
Yeah, you won't.
We're not gonna do 172 pages tonight.
George will forgive us.
It's curious
Yeah.
that the one suggesting we postpone it to another time may be a
Yes.
time when the individual may not be in the same dais as us to review it, but the point is well taken. I was very impressed by the document, but
Jeez.
it is something that I think ideally should be shared more with the community to understand the thought process, the proposals, the timeline going forward with the various stages. Again, it was a most impressive document, but something that I'd say a little differently, it'd be great to share with the community and maybe share with a little bit of opportunity of a slideshow and to highlight some of the points that they had in there.
Right, I mean, this comes to us from the Park and Rec Board, of course, who had a hearing or two on it. I mean, they have open meetings, so.
And a lot of people
But
have
you're right, I mean, a lot of
participated in
people
that,
don't
but
go to those meetings.
just to read the document and the thought process and all the different, there's a lot of different opportunities out there. I'm sure some, we won't be able to fund, but others that may provide opportunities to improve upon an outstanding Parks and Rec department.
So, Jack, why don't you make a motion, if you want, to remove this from omnibus consideration this evening?
So moved.
Voice vote on this? Voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
I had another item that I wanted to just have a little discussion about. I think it's item number 16, and it's the seeding contract for the ravine at the North Beach Access Road. And there are two reasons for this. First of all, it's an item that cumulatively will be greater than what we've budgeted for that item, is my understanding. Is Elizabeth here?
No, she's on vacation.
Elizabeth's not. I know Mike Thomas would be prepared
Yeah.
to speak on that.
Right.
Yeah, that may need clarification.
Right, and so that's the first reason, and I just think also that it's good practice, whenever something is exceeding what we've budgeted for it, that it be discussed at the council level. And the second reason for it is I just think that this is something that everyone's very interested in, what that ravine is going to look like, just as they've been very interested in what we're doing with the North Beach Access Road in general. And I did talk a little bit with Mike about it, and it's kind of a neat story, the care that's being taken to replant that ravine, and I think people would be very interested in it.
Good. Thank you. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. The request is to allow city staff to work with its landscape architect that the City Council approved as part of this design, P. Clifford Miller, to select various plants that will work very well in a ravine setting. Not a backyard, but definitely in a ravine setting with the soils that we already have. We don't want to import any new soils. That has become extremely difficult to do. Cliff and our staff have done a good job locating this material, but they've located it in Indiana, in Wisconsin, some in Ohio, some in Western Illinois. So we need City Council's approval this evening to be able to make these individual purchases. Majority of them are less than $5,000, somewhere in $7,000, $8,000 range. But we're upwards right now of about 6 or 7 nurseries that we're dealing with. We'll probably go up to about 11. But the timing of this is important from the standpoint that Cliff feels very strongly that we need to get the material in the ground, number one. Number two, again, the material is very limited. It's difficult to find. So he is putting his eyes on all of this. He's traveling to all these nurseries along with our city forester and hand-picking all of this material. So it works with the views as you enter the North Beach Access Road. It obviously will stabilize the slopes. And it's inherent and native material that will work very well in ravines. So that is the basis for us not bidding and asking your approval.
And Mike, would you mind providing just a little clarity on the budget request and the funding source?
We have $230,000 budgeted in the capital plan. The $230,000 is really just a general number for us to work with bluffs, ditches, and ravines. So essentially, this is money coming out of that account. Right now, it is not earmarked. I know by the end of the fiscal year, we will have spent it. But it's primarily for when we get those heavy rain events and we need to shore up various ravines or culverts or ditches. We have capital dollars to be able to do that. So this money being requested is coming out of that account, which is very appropriate. It's part of what we were thinking as we established this account.
And a very important point is the timing here, the need that we need to stabilize the bluff as soon as possible, knowing Mother Nature and knowing experiences in the past. The sooner we can get this material in, the better, knowing its limited availability, knowing we have an expert, helping us through the process. I think it's an opportunity that we can't pass up.
So, Mike, it would really be useful if we could publicize which plants are being chosen. There's so many gardeners in town that I'm sure everyone would like to know what we're choosing and perhaps a little bit of a description.
Sure.
For those of us that wouldn't know what those plants are.
We would be happy to do it. P. Clifford Miller Incorporated, they've put together a plan. If you go down to the ravine right now, which you actually cannot because we're working on the bluff, but the ravine has many individual flags, color flags, that Cliff has laid out on the slopes where specific plants are going to be planted. So he's been spending a lot of time along with our city forester locating this material. And I agree with you, it's going to be fascinating in the end because it's not, in the world of public works, we talk about seed and blanket. It's just something to stabilize black dirt. It's nowhere near that. Yeah. This is far beyond that. So,
Mike, I wonder if it'd be worth mentioning now that Cliff is the person who actually created the master plan for this whole part of the city. It was part of the Forest Park project, but all of this stuff is, it's contiguous. And so I think we all know of his particular expertise, but there is, in fact, already a plan. My guess is that would this be added to that master plan so that whatever plantings go in, then that would be included in the plan?
Yes.
I mean,
Yes,
it seems like it's
there is-
contiguous space.
correct. There is an overall plan for Forest Park, Tableland,
Right.
South Beach and North Beach. And yes, there is this master plan. So Cliff is taking all of this and intertwining it. So
Right.
they relate and work with one another. So this ravine planting is going to be different than what we're going to end up on the bluff on the south end, because a bluff is a bluff and a ravine is a ravine. They're different, and they're managed differently. So, but yes,
They'll
Cliff
all be
is.
part of that same, I mean, it's an ecosystem
yes,
that's, as I
absolutely.
say,
They're all
is
gonna be part
contiguous.
of
And
that.
I feel, having worked with Cliff pretty closely on the Forest Park project, he is an extraordinary resource in this community, and his commitment to preservation, to using native plants, has just been, I think, a real reminder of how important keeping us, how special this place is in terms of its topography and in terms of its plants and so on. And that is really a guiding principle for him. So I think we're really lucky. But I also think questions about process are always important. And
As Alderman Bushman noted, I mean, myself, Chuck Myers, Corey Werma, we've all been talking to Cliff over this past week and the past 2 days. I know he's watching at home, and as soon as, if City Council approves this, we have a number of purchases where materials set aside that we are going to hit go, so we can get this material in and get going.
All right, well, good. Well, thank you. Any other questions or thoughts on other items? If not, I'll ask for a motion to approve the omnibus items with the exception of item number 11.
For a final reading or first on those specific items?
Final and all.
Yeah, final.
Yeah, and with final approval from the three boards. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
This is a roll call vote.
Alderman Beidler.
Aye.
Alderman Morris.
Aye.
Alderman Newman.
Aye.
Alderman Rommel.
Aye.
Alderman Reisenberg.
Aye.
Alderman Preschlack.
Aye.
Alderman Moreno.
Aye.
Alderman Bushman.
Aye.
8 yea, 0 nay, motion carries.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is additional items, and the city manager has requested the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and let me first add that staff will prepare a comprehensive presentation on the 10-year strategic master plan at a future council meeting. And so with that, it is my distinct pleasure to carry on with a longstanding city tradition of recognizing our outgoing elected officials and presenting gifts on behalf of the city before I turn it over to the rest of the city council to provide comments. And so first, Alderman Reisenberg.
Uh-oh.
Have both a certificate, tree planting, and a gift you'll have to guess.
Bet it's a road.
Public Works Department.
So what goes with Reisenberg? Reisenberg what? No?
Road.
Oh, way.
Reisenberg Road, there you go.
Reisenberg.
It should be Reisenberg's Way. I like that. I like that.
Or the highway.
Yes. Finally, some acknowledgement.
Can you write that little white letters underneath?
If we could put Jack up here, then I could give it to my wife and we could hang it maybe.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah.
Could be way or highway.
Yeah, take the highway.
I'd like that for Mayor Lansing.
Oh, my gosh.
Lansing Lane.
Lansing
A
Lane
tree?
would be my guess.
Who do I cash this in with? Oh, Corey. Yeah,
threw me on this
all right.
one.
Thank you very much, Jason. Best Public Works Department wrapping. Blue tape, they put the blue tape. What can this be? So bad.
That is good. Oh, I like that.
I got caught.
That's scary.
Oh, that's creative. I love
I
that.
never thought of that. That's perfect. I deserve it.
You guys should pose together, maybe. With the two new signs.
That's very creative, Michael.
And before I turn it over to the council, I also just want to take a brief opportunity to both Alderman Reisenberg and Mayor Lansing to express again my thanks and gratitude. I'm very humbled to have the opportunity to be here and to serve this city. I recognize and very much appreciate the role that both of you played in giving me that opportunity. And so, I know our tenure, our time together was technically short working together, but I hope to have a long career here in the city of Lake Forest, and I want you both to know that as long as I'm here, I'll never forget the role that both of you played in giving me this opportunity. So thank you both again, personally and from my family. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to your colleagues if they have any comments they'd like to provide. First for Alderman Reisenberg, and I'll start at the end with Alderman Morris.
Sure. So I like the feeling of finding it difficult to say goodbye to someone, because it means that I found a really good friend, and that's how I view you. I wanted to thank you for your support, for your kindness in the 2 years I've been here, and your generous friendship, which has been great. I will miss you, and I will especially miss your insightful comments on the pace of our meetings. So thank you very much, and good luck.
Thank you. I think I'm next. I would also thank Jack for friendship. I didn't know Jack before coming on the council, and now we've had 5 years together, and it's been instructive. We don't always agree, but I think there's. I hope it's okay to say I know there's mutual respect. And I will say, if a call came in from Jack, I always took it because I knew it was going to be an interesting call. And the other thing that I would mention is that we did some service during a complicated time and in council, and there've been a couple of intense times, but one in particular which I don't think I need to elaborate on now because it should be pretty clear when that was. And Jack was extraordinary. If we had not had his leadership getting us through that period, it just would have been harder for, not just for the council and for the city staff, but for the community. And so because he had human relations expertise and individual expertise, he helped us get through something. And so it was service to the city that the city didn't necessarily see or witness. But I can tell you how significant it was. So you'll be in my, you always know if somebody's going to kind of plant themselves in your mind, and I think mostly you'll be in my mind as Jed said, as the, isn't this meeting about to wrap up? But and always a wonderful sense of wit and looking at things with a sense of humor. But when you needed to hold us to account and push us hard, you did it, and we never hesitated because we knew you were such a good, appropriate leader. Thank you.
Uh-oh.
Are you going to pass?
Doubtful.
That's too bad.
But I missed, we could have roasted you a little bit, but I missed that
Well, that's
that
all right.
opportunity.
That's all right.
Jack, I think you sort of cut your milk teeth when Mike was mayor, and you were a third ward activist of all things. I remember Mike talking to you in long phone conversations while he was mayor, working through some then very difficult issues as well. And I think he recognized your talents and your intelligence and your passion for this community through all of that, and appointed you to the Plan Commission, I think was your first appointment, where you performed magnificently. And I remember working with you when you were chairman of the Plan Commission and the hospital plan was before you. And again, you handled that with aplomb and with discretion and integrity. And I thank you for that. It was another very difficult situation that you led this city through. I think you're a person who's very, very good one-on-one with people, and I appreciate that. You were always available to talk. And as a new council member, I appreciated that very much. I appreciated your insight and your patience with everybody. And I think you display the same thing one-on-one with residents. I think that even if they don't agree with you, you listen to them, and you'll express your opinion and come to respect one another through that process. And I admire you for that type of forthrightness and integrity. And certainly for the way you led us. Alderman Beidler has referred to you leading us through our crisis last year, and your counsel was very much appreciated through all of that. It was very special, and we could rely on you because we knew there was a steady hand at the helm. And so thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
The city owes you a debt of gratitude and a thank you for your leadership, and it's my personal hope that you will not go far. You have an awful lot of institutional knowledge that you've garnered through your years of public service here in this community. So I hope that you'll take a little break and then follow in the footsteps of some of our former council members and mayors who are still serving our wonderful city in various capacities. You will be missed.
Well, Jack, we got more than a few years together, both on Plan Commission and now here on council. And I will say that you left me holding the bag on Plan Commission, and now you're leaving me holding the bag on council. But I just it's been great working with you all these years, Jack. And I think you and I had a kindred spirit that I could always count on with you, Jack. And I'm going to miss that. I guess I'm going to have to work harder on Fresh Slack and start breaking in Gushgarian. So best of wishes to you. I'll see you on the golf course.
Well, thank you, Jack, for your service. So 12 years is a long time, and it really is a lot of labor behind the scenes, and it's why this town is special and the city is special. So thank you so much for the Plan Commission and the council. Thank you for helping me get up to speed as a Third Ward Alderman last year. It's been fun to work with you. You always kept it fun, and I think having a perspective is important, but you were also able to cut through some complex issues in executive session or here at council, and you cut right to the chase. So keeping it fun and cutting right to the chase, I think, are admirable qualities, and I really appreciate that. I also appreciate the fact, and I wasn't on the council, but it's really hard to do what's right in some tough situations where you can incur some personal cost for doing what is right in the best interest of the city. And I really, really appreciate that you did that and that you were there. And so I echo my colleagues' comments. And I look forward to getting to know you more and more in the future. And thanks again for your service.
Absolutely.
Thank you. You have been challenging for me, which is good. I really appreciate someone that makes me think about things, not just in a 360-degree linear way, but multilinear. And you are a multilinear thinker, and I really appreciated that. I haven't always agreed with you, and I like that I don't always agree with you. I think that's strength. And so I really greatly appreciate all of your counsel throughout the time I've been on city council, and you really have been extremely insightful and right, cut to the chase. So you're my warp speed guy. And I think that's great because you are able to evaluate and assimilate information quickly and effectively, and you enable all of us to do that. And I really appreciate that. So I'm going to miss you a ton. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle.
Jack, last on the council, but without repeating all the well-deserved accolades that my fellow councilmen and ladies have shared with you, I'd like to spend a minute on your background, which is a labor relations specialist, one who has to do a balancing act of trying to recognize management's objectives, the purse strings, and yet the morale of the employees, the expectations of employees. It's a very difficult balancing act. In another area of expertise for the labor management specialist is to deal with complaints, grievances, unfair practice charges, work stoppages, work slowdowns, strikes, the sort of thing that, perfect way of coming into the council and dealing with those sort of things. But putting those aside, again, you did a great job on some very key issues that were important to us. And you helped bring on board our city manager that we look forward to working with in a great period of time. I hope you, in your extra time now, you can get more on the tennis court and on the golf course. But continue to keep us in mind, and if you have that complaint or that observation, do give one of us including myself, a call. I'd be happy to hear from you.
Call Jim.
And as Jack would say, let's not continue rambling on, let's move on. So end the discussion now. Thank you, Jack.
Well said, Ray. As for myself, Jack, there's really nothing I can add to those very well-said comments that extolled your commitment to the city over many years and through thick and thin, and the contributions you leave behind. You know how I feel about you. And we're going to adjourn to the Market House Bar afterwards to talk about it some more. But congratulations on a great run with the city.
Thank you.
We're all the better for it. Thank you so much. So would you please say a few things?
Yes, I will. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for those kind words, maybe too kind. I wish most of them were true. But it has been 12 years, 6 on plan and 6 on city council. It's time for a rest. There's a reason that God created term limits. I wish other forms of government, both state and federal, would have those also. But it is what it is. But there are several folks or group of folks that I'd like to thank. First is the city staff. You folks are the best, absolutely the best. You work incredibly hard at what you do. And I'm going to miss taking credit for all that. Thank you, fellow council members. And there's actually kind of 2 groups of you. And you'll find that out as you go through your 6 years. You'll have like 1 or 2 groups. And the group that the first 4 years were with Kathy Waldeck, George, Don, and Mike Edelman, who's out there, and also working with you folks. I walk away feeling like we've accomplished a lot, and I'll always be proud of that, quite frankly. I also want to thank you for putting up with me, and quite frankly, for allowing me to be myself. The third is thanking my fellow Third Ward aldermen. Quite frankly, I was blessed. With Jim and Randy Tack. Jim for just a year, but I got to tell you something, he's a keeper. And I look forward for big things from you, buddy. Make me proud. Randy for 5 years. I could go on and on for 5 years. I mean, we sat next to each other, and he's a hoot. He's a hoot, and we worked well together. We're probably as different can be. I recall, comment from Randy was 2 grunts and a groan, and me, I couldn't keep my mouth shut. And there were other differences. There were other differences too, but we came together, and we're friends to this day. And I'll always cherish the work we did together, and his friendship. Era, it's up to you to carry on this tradition. Make me proud. Lastly, there's one other person that I have to call out. It's Kathy. We worked together for 12 years at first 6 on plan. I wanted her to make me plan commission for life. She wouldn't do it. But I'm very proud of what we accomplished. We did the hospital. We did Laurel and Western Avenue. We did McKinley together. Quite frankly, if I have any success at all, it was largely due to your help. Thanks. That's it. Thank you.
Well, you're not alone in saying that last part. Well, thank you, Jack.
My pleasure.
Bless you.
My pleasure.
We know where to find you.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And with that, we're going to do it all over again.
Mayor?
Start down at the end with Jed, and any comments
Sure.
anyone has for Mayor Lansing.
All right. Well, Rob, you will leave us with a remarkable legacy in just 2 years. There have been some dramatic accomplishments, and these will remain with us for many years to come. I think you're leaving Lake Forest a better place than when you found it. And I say that it'll remain a lasting tribute to your leadership and professionalism as mayor. And I just went back and thought about these accomplishments, and I just want to run down them. We've had the successful transition to a new city manager, which is the first transition in 28 years. We've recruited a new city attorney. We turned back the state's third rail proposal for the Western Metro line. Recruited the new expanded Metra commuter service for the Western train station. Transition of the McCormick Reserve over to the Open Lands Organization. Support for a revised pension funding model. Integration of the Rockland Fire District, which certainly will reduce our future service costs. Your critical help in raising private funding for the North Beach Access Road, and expanding the infrastructure funding for these very important that are coming forward on the city capital projects. That's quite a list for any mayor. So remember all this in the years that lie ahead. My wish for you is that old sailing expression, which you'll appreciate. That is, fair skies and a following sea in the years ahead. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Rob, thank you for all of your service. It's been terrific, short. I would have enjoyed more, but I'm delighted to have had the 2 years with you. You will also be present in my mind, and in a way that you've heard me say before, but I'll say it again, and I'm particularly reminded because not just Kitty is here tonight, but also Stuart. So I think we, and probably the community by now understands that Rob is a real student of history. It really matters to him what's happened before, and you have often reminded us about precedent and things that have happened before, and when things have, how problems might have been solved before. And I think you always brought that forward, and I appreciated that. But you brought something else as well. You've helped us look forward. And Stuart, you may not watch every meeting. I'm not sure Kitty watches every meeting, but your father actually refers to grandchildren reasonably often, because in his mind, as in those of us, all of us, I think, who have grandchildren, what that does is takes you into a future which is a time when you won't actually be present. And Rob knows that. And you actually don't actually realize this so much when you have children, but with grandchildren, you have to, if you're honest about the realities of the way time works. And you've done that. And I think you've helped all of us remember that our job here now is to secure the future of this town into a time when we won't be here to see it or take appreciation for it being the way it is. So I thank you for that, and that will stay with me. And you've brought that on such a constant basis that I think it's certainly hardwired in this alderman, and I'm really appreciative.
Rob, you certainly have accomplished a lot in a 2-year term. You should be very proud of your accomplishments. I think watching you through the challenge of the third rail out west was really a lesson in how to get things done and how Lake Forest gets things done. I think that your work behind the scenes on that has not received the credit that's due you. And you are to be credited for really coming to a resolution on that matter for the benefit of the entire city when it wasn't always apparent to everyone that that was what was going to happen. And so thank you for that. Also, you're very astute in financial matters and have truly left this city in a better financial position, especially with regard to the pension issue, which was beginning to suffocate us financially. And your leadership truly led to a resolution, or at least a lessening of that problem, which not many people would have been able to see through, and you did. And you're just very astute financially and fiscally, and you were the right leader in there at the right time. And so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And don't go far. You're certainly much appreciated, and I know your family will enjoy having you back among them.
We're not going far.
I know you're not.
Well, Rob, I sit here with just a slightly nagging feeling, and that is Rob, we hardly knew you. I mean, the talents you displayed in a mere 2 years were outstanding, especially the railroad issue. In the midst of a boiling cauldron of controversy, your calm demeanor was inspiring to all of us. But you've heard all the accomplishments tonight. I hate to think what might have been accomplished with 4 years. But I know your passion for your family and your business and your clients and your projects. So I certainly respect the decision and wish you the best.
Well, thank you, Tim. Great to be with you.
Mr. Mayor, if you had made the trains run on time, we'd have had to call you dictator. You weren't able to accomplish that, but by working with Metra and Lake County Partners, you got a project for significantly improved train service at the Telegraph Road Station that is going to provide the needed support to our business, particularly in Conway Park, and also increase the residents' capabilities or abilities to get train service into the city. There are those dastardly times around 4, 5, and 6 o'clock when they want to go to dinner or go to a show or to a concert or whatever. And by working with Metra and IDOT in support of the action group, you were able to resolve the holding track issue, as everybody said, ensuring that even if the Amtrak proposal was approved, the holding track would not be built in Lake Forest. And as a lot of others have alluded to, by working with Open Lands, you were successfully able to resolve some pretty sticky issues that not all of us were aware of, quite frankly. Some of us were, quite frankly. I gotta say, that's what I call a strong close to your term. You peaked when we needed you the most. Congratulations and thank you.
Well, thank you, Jack.
Yeah, and thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your service to the city. It really started in 1985, so it's really almost 35 years of dedication to the city to make it a special place. I think all the accomplishments that were just listed off, to me, they were really catalyzed by your passion for the community and the focus on what's in the long-term best interest of Lake Forest. You said that repeatedly. You resurrected the criteria from a previous mayor. It was one of the first off-site workshops I was on, to really make sure that everybody that sits in the council seat is focused on that. It's not a specific agenda item. It's not something that's in their backyard. It's weighing stakeholders and thinking long-term to your grandchildren, and that's a gift. And so that's gonna be in our packets every month, so I really appreciate that. I think I'll miss the nautical turns of phrases as well. I always enjoyed when you talked about the miracles of Lake Forest. Whenever there was a ribbon cutting setting and a ceremony, you would always say another miracle from Lake Forest. And you really love this town, and it's evident in how you addressed your job and the problems that you solve through the passion and the long-term interest that you have for the community. So thank you very, very much. And thank you for your friendship, too.
Thank you, Jim.
Mr. Mayor, I will miss you immensely. You've been a real steward and a teacher of what it is to be a steward. And that continuous reminder is a very good thing for us. We have a legacy that we are all very proud of, and it's really, it's something that I think too often gets lost in the day-to-day. And I really appreciate the long view. I think it's so important for us in everything that everyone talked about, in our beach, in all of our assets. And so I'm very grateful that you hold to that standard, that we sometimes get bogged down and don't see it, the forest for the trees, so to speak. So that's something that has been very significant for me, and I'm very grateful for the chance to have worked alongside you. You have a very steady and calm demeanor in the face of conflict, and that's good. And you have a very steady and calm demeanor in the face of the good things too, and make us remember to take a chance to celebrate the good, and to be part of that, to own it, and that's been great. So your guidance, your counsel has been just absolutely steady, and that's a leader. So I really do appreciate everything that you've done.
Well, thank you. Very kind.
Mr. Mayor, you spent many years contributing a hell of a lot to the city and doing a lot for the city, much of which was not personally involved, but have been involved now for the last 2 years when you've served as our mayor. You've brought significant traits to that job that helped perform the function admirably, respectfully, in a way that was, admittedly very successful. My fellow aldermen have touched on several of these. One of the major problems we have facing us deals with the fire and police pension issue. And we've come away with, under your leadership, a balanced, sustainable approach to deal with that issue going forward. We've had the failure at the Bluff, failure at the beach, Bluff, and we've on a path to solve that problem in a way that enhances the beauty of what we call our crown jewel. Again, many others, the Knollwood situation, again, was a great solution, a great opportunity for the city, for Knollwood and other communities to move forward in an area where we face a lot of problems. And again, with the third rail, I'm glad we have that to bury behind us. And again, thank you for everything you did for us. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Ray. Well, I've always said it's a great honor to be mayor. It's a privilege, but never writ so large and so well as by the serving with you citizen volunteers here at City Council. No municipality on earth could afford the value of the talent that Lake Forest is able to assemble on its council and on its boards and commissions. It's just a remarkable group of people. So, Jed read off a long list of things that happened on our time here the last 2 years, but any credit that you extend to me, extend fully to yourselves and your fellow citizen volunteers. We all did this together. So I take no unique credit in any of this. I have a few thoughts, though, I'd like to relate. The qualities of our community are visible and plentiful, whether in the consistent attractiveness of our streetscapes and community planning, our neighborhoods, our schools, and the city's many civic and cultural institutions, or in the care and maintenance of these assets by the owners, boards, citizen volunteers, and city staff there too. These examples are only a few of the many qualities that, taken together, bind us together in community and comprise the foundation of why we all moved to Lake Forest and why we remain. It's been half my lifetime. Over the course of 35 years of citizen volunteering with local organizations and serving on city boards and commissions as an alderman and now as mayor, I've come to see that these qualities did not come into being or are sustained through the operation of mere chance, which I quote from a former president of the United States. Rather, it has occurred by sustained efforts of a never-ending chain of committed, thoughtful, and fair-minded citizen volunteers and staff who love and appreciate Lake Forest. We say things like that all the time about Lake Forest, but you can hardly count on one hand, right? Or you need only one hand to count the total number of communities in America who can really say that. And it all comes from hard work. One thing we never want to fall into is congratulating ourselves all the time. It is also evident in the course of my travels through the nation how rare it is to find a community that has executed so well over so many years in creating such qualities and then keeping them intact through the years. The future for Lake Forest is bright, certainly brighter than any other community in Illinois, save perhaps for very few others. And while fiscal and other storms roil Chicago and the state, and will for several years, the qualities of Lake Forest make it a safe port in the storms. And I think this will accrue in a lot of ways with home values, jobs, and so forth. Our large and broad tax base in combination with a long legacy of fiscal prudence affirmed by a AAA bond rating, and our strong sense of community demonstrated by its special tradition of able citizen volunteerism and attracting and retaining top-notch city staff will keep Lake Forest strong and remain the best choice for families to raise and educate children. I believe Lake Forest's bright future will be very ably sustained by George Pantaleon becoming the 55th mayor of Lake Forest. A model citizen volunteer, George has accumulated perhaps the finest resume ever in preparation for the leadership role of mayor. This background and experience will serve the city well in the coming years of change in Illinois, all the while navigating the good ship Lake Forest forward. George is a sailor too, so there's more of this coming. In closing, I thank all of the many citizens and city staff I've had the privilege to work with as mayor. This is the real privilege of being mayor in Lake Forest. The constant reaffirmation, none of us are alone in our commitment, abilities, and persistence to sustain the Lake Forest community and its qualities. For indeed, it is a team effort every day. So again, whatever credit you may extend or grant me rightly belongs with my fellow volunteers and with the city staff. So, over to you, George. To the city council, city manager Jason Wisha, and your very able departmental leaders. I am confident you will sustain the long-term perspective when making decisions. May God continue to bless Lake Forest, USA. Thank you very much. I have to also thank Kitty,
Good thought.
who endeavored to watch on TV Monday nights, but who almost unfailingly was in bed by the time I got home, sometimes asleep. And I got lots of good advice at breakfast. So, if I could get a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
We will be adjourned. We are adjourned. There'll be a 10-minute break. In the second session, the new council will form.
Good evening. I'd like to call for the organization of the 2019-2020 Lake Forest City Council.
Could the clerk please administer the oath of office to the alderman-elect?
Certainly. The alderman-elect would step down.
Oh.
It's you.
No.
Thought so too.
No, I keep thinking it's just era.
Okay, if you'll raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
James Morris.
Having been elected to the office of alderman
Having been elected to the office of alderman
of the city of Lake Forest,
of the city of Lake Forest,
the county of Lake,
the county of Lake,
and in the state of Illinois,
and in the state of Illinois,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the state of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the state of Illinois,
and that I will discharge the duties of said office
and that I will discharge the duties of said office
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Two-fifths of the family.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, George Pandeleon,
Having been elected to the office of mayor
having been elected to the office of mayor
of the city of Lake Forest,
of the city of Lake Forest
in the county of Lake,
in the county of Lake
and the state of Illinois,
and the state of Illinois,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the state of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the state of Illinois,
and that I will discharge the said duties
and I will discharge the said duties
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Welcome to the second session of the Lake Forest City Council. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Certainly. Honorable Mayor Pandeleon.
Here?
Alderman Beidler.
Here.
Alderman Morris.
Here.
Alderman Newman.
Here.
Alderman Rommel.
Here.
Alderman Preschlack.
Here.
Alderman Goshgarian.
Here.
Alderman Moreno.
Here.
Alderman Bushman.
Here.
Mr. Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Biddy. First item on the agenda is the election by the city council and appointments by the mayor as required by charter and city code. City treasurer Elizabeth Holub, city supervisor Jason Witcha, city marshal and collector Carl Waldorf, city attorney Julie Tappendorf, city clerk Margaret Boyer, city surveyor and engineer Gaywalt Hamilton and Associates. I would ask for a motion to approve these appointments.
So moved.
Second.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. And the next item on the agenda is reports of city officers, comments by mayor, which I guess is me now. First, before I do that, we're going to have some resolutions of appreciation for Alderman Reisenberg and Mayor Lansing in a moment, but I want to recognize the august collection of former aldermen and mayors that are here in the room. I see Mayor, first Alderman and then Mayor Preschlack. I see Mayor Rummel, Mayor Lansing. Let's see, and there was,
Swarthout was here.
I guess Mayor Swarthout was there? No,
He
I
was
guess
in
he
the back.
stepped out.
Preschlack.
Okay. And then we have former Alderman Tim Reynolds and former, well, let's see, is Mike still here? Mike, oh, you moved up in the, right, okay. And Mike Edelman,
'cause he's so
former
dressed up.
Alderman and colleague
Tim
on the city
Reynolds.
council.
Tim Reynolds.
And thank you all for being here and having us, providing assistance to us who are sort of carrying the torch forward. So we really appreciate all your service and, in many cases, continuing service to the community. So thank you. The first item is a resolution of appreciation for Ward 3 Alderman Jack Reisenberg. I am going to read the resolution and then ask for a vote. If I can find the resolution, here it is. Alderman Reisenberg served as Third Ward Alderman from May 2013, which sounds like ancient history, to May 2019, tonight. Whereas during the term of his office, Jack Reisenberg served as a member of the City Council, as Alderman for the Third Ward, a member of the Finance Committee, a member of the Personnel, Compensation, and Administration Committee, and as liaison to the Lake Forest Collaborative for Environmental Leadership. And whereas Jack served as chairman of the Property and Public Lands Committee, and under his leadership, the city's former 10-acre municipal services site was remediated, sold to a developer, and approved for development with a mix of housing options close to stores and restaurants in the central business district. And today, that development is well on its way to becoming part of the fabric of Lake Forest. And whereas Jack was a member of the Plan Commission for 6 years, serving 3 of those as chairman, and under his leadership, the commission carefully vetted the proposal for a new hospital over the course of many long meetings. And as a result of those efforts, the community today has a new first-class hospital with over 100 acres of the campus preserved as open space. And whereas Jack was instrumental in bringing the BMW Golf Championship to Conway Farms Golf Club in 2013, 2015, and 2017, elevating the prestige of the club and shining a national spotlight on our community. And whereas Jack played a pivotal role in bringing many issues to resolution, always with an eye focused on the best solutions for the overall community for the long term. And whereas Jack was responsive to residents, businesses, and local community institutions, listening to concerns and encouraging and sometimes pushing for communication and cooperation among various parties seeking middle ground where appropriate. And whereas Jack will be remembered for running efficient meetings, keeping discussions on topic, and moving deliberations to a close. And whereas Jack has devoted extraordinary time, energy, and personal attention, and then some, in fulfilling his duties as an elected official and a member of the City Council. And whereas Jack, on behalf of the residents of the Third Ward and all the citizens of Lake Forest, continually and competently performed his duties and fulfilled his responsibilities with purpose and dedication. And whereas the members of this City Council, along with all of the citizens of the City of Lake Forest, recognize, applaud, and are deeply appreciative of Jack Reisenberg's service and the long-lasting contributions he has made to preserve, protect, and enhance the quality of life in our community, which is treasured by all. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Lake Forest, Illinois, hereby expresses the profound gratitude of the citizens of Lake Forest to Jack Reisenberg for the loyal and faithful public service he has given by means of this resolution, which shall be spread upon the permanent records of the City Council. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Any opposed? Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Jack, your last gift. Second item is a resolution of appreciation for outgoing Mayor Rob Lansing. This one's even longer than the last one, so just bear with me, but all well-deserved. Whereas Robert T.E. Lansing has honorably served the city of Lake Forest as mayor from May 2017 to May 2019, and whereas Rob has a history of community service that long predates his election to the office of mayor, including but not limited to serving as First Ward Alderman, member of the Zoning Board of Appeals, which I enjoyed being with him on, chairman of the Grove School Cultural Campus Commission, a member of the Telecommunications Planning Committee, a member of the Central Business District Task Force, which I was also a member of the Lake Forest Beach Restoration Commission, and he held positions on various boards supporting local institutions. And whereas during his tenure as mayor, Rob served as chairman of the Personnel, Compensation, and Administration Committee, a member of the City Council Finance Committee, and played a leadership role on the Lake Forest College Founders Council. And whereas Rob served as mayor of Lake Forest with commitment, determination, courage, dignity, leadership, and always with an eye to the future, looking out 10, 20, 50 years to assure that Lake Forest will offer future generations the quality of life and special place that has long endured here. And whereas as mayor, Rob led the community forward on matters relating to fiscal strength and stability, appropriate development, long-term planning, protection and preservation of the community's natural resources and features, increasing efficiencies in providing public services and technological advances. And whereas as mayor, Rob played a leadership role in shaping issues at the regional and state levels, including topics ranging from pensions to public safety to improvements around train-related commuter service and safety. And whereas during Rob's tenure as mayor, the city has undertaken planning for and implementation of significant capital improvements for the long-term betterment of the community, including the reconfiguration of the North Beach Access Road and the associated ravine and bluff stabilization, various stormwater management projects, extensive street resurfacing and upgrading of facilities at the Deer Path Golf Course. Whereas as mayor, Rob led the search for a new city manager with careful thought and diligence and has mentored our new city manager in recent months to pass along pearls of wisdom and to emphasize the importance of preserving the quality of life and the special character of Lake Forest, while at the same time moving the community forward. And whereas during Rob's tenure as mayor, the city has remained financially stable, maintained its AAA bond rating and debt capacity, while at the same time, the city has continued to provide high-quality, responsive services to all residents, businesses, and institutions throughout the community. And whereas Rob has served as mayor with respect and honor, his deep affection for our community being clearly evident through the commitment of extraordinary time, energy, creativity, and passion that he displayed throughout his tenure. And whereas the members of the City Council, along with all of the citizens of Lake Forest, recognize and are deeply grateful and appreciative of Robert T.E. Lansing's service and contributions to our community, he has made a positive difference and leaves a lasting impression. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council of Lake Forest, Illinois, hereby expresses profound gratitude on behalf of all of the citizens of Lake Forest to Robert T.E. Lansing for the loyal and faithful service he has given by means of this resolution, which shall be spread upon the permanent records of the City Council this 20th day of May, 2019. Do I have a motion to approve the resolution?
Second.
A second? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not surprising. Thank you very much. The motion passes, and Rob, another gift.
Well, thank you. He said to me, that seems an exhausting list. I said, 2 years.
The next item on the agenda is appointments to boards and commissions and reappointments to boards and commissions. So I will read these off, hopefully without missing a beat. The Building Review Board, appointing John Luby III and Joanne Bloom, reappointing James Sikora and Chris Byers, and reappointing as chair James Diamond. Cemetery Commission, appointing Eileen Luby Weber, reappointing David Hook, and reappointing as chair Dennis O'Brien. Historic Preservation Commission, appointing Steve Lamontagne, reappointing Carol Gale and Janet Gibson. The Legal Committee, appointing David Michael and Joy Guscott Mueller. Park and Recreation Board, appointing Jared Rhodes, reappointing Shannon McGuire and Melanie Walsh, reappointing as chair Paul Best, and appointing Will Elliott as student on the board. For the Library Commission, reappointing Jermaine Arnson, Elizabeth Grob, and Beth Parsons. For the Plan Commission, appointing John Dixon and reappointing Michael Friedman, Stephen Douglas, and Rosemary Keir as chair. I believe Rosemary Keir is as chair. Croya Board, reappointing Carolyn Belsky, Jennifer Riley, and Jennifer Durberg, and reappointing as chair Jennifer Karras.
Skipped one.
So,
Oh, sorry, I skipped the zoning board. My favorite place. Zoning Board of Appeals, appointing Lori Rose and reappointing Lisa Naring and James Moorhead. Senior Resources Commission, appointing Ed Richardson. Board of Police and Fire Commissioners, reappointing Greg Nikitas and Steve Kernahan. Board of Trustees Police Pension Fund, reappointing MJ Trees. The Housing Trust Fund Board, reappointing Charles King and reappointing as chair Don Schoenheider. I would request a motion to approve these appointments.
So moved.
Do we have
Second.
a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. The appointments are approved. The next item on the agenda is approval of a resolution of appreciation for retiring members of boards and commissions as follows. Building Review Board, Robert Rita, Ted Notes, and Ross Friedman. Cemetery Commission, Patrick Luby. Historic Preservation Commission, Robert Alfie. Legal Committee, Ken Weinberger and Jason Maxwell. Parks and Recreation Board, Charles Kohlmeyer. Plan Commission, Guy Berg. Zoning Board of Appeals, Richard Plonsker. Board of Trustees of the Police Pension Fund, Colleen Chandler. And the Senior Resources Commission, Steve Pottsick. I would ask for a motion to approve resolution of appreciation for these outgoing board and commission members.
So moved.
Moved.
Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye? Any opposed? I guess I don't vote, I should stop saying aye.
Only in a tie.
Right, only in critical circumstances, right. It's just an old habit. So that motion is approved, the resolution of appreciation for our outgoing board and commission members. The next item of the agenda, on the agenda is announcement of city council committee appointments. And we have, and I didn't write this down, so I'm going to do this from memory, but I believe we have 3. We have appointing as chair of the Property and Public Lands Commission, or committee, Jim Preschlack. Oh, great, thank you. Do I read all the members of all the committees, or just the new ones?
Just the new ones is fine, and it's in front of you underneath the.
Yeah, I got some help, thank you.
Rookie mistake.
Yeah. Right. So for the Finance Committee, Jed Morris, reappointed as chair. Personnel Compensation Administration, George Pandeleon, chair, reappointing Tim Newman and adding Prue Beidler. Public Works Committee, Ray Bushman remains as chair, Melanie Rummel and Michelle Marino as committee members. And Property and Public Lands, as I said before, Jim Preschlack assuming the role of chair, Jed Morris continuing on that committee, and Era Goshgarian assuming a new seat on that committee. So that's an announcement. The next item on the agenda is the swearing in of firefighter paramedic Zach Amron. Chief Siebert, would you like to make a few comments in advance of this?
Honorable Mayor, members of council, thank you for letting us use this platform tonight to honor one of our members and their achievement. Firefighter paramedic Zach Amrine came to us about 2 years ago. Zach was on our hiring list. He took our test, and we have a longstanding tradition lately. We get people on our list, and we think that there's somebody that's going to have a lot of potential, and we offer them a part-time position. Zach now makes it one of our 10 POP members, making that we have 3 shifts of 10 people. We can staff 1 full shift that all started as a POP and are now full-time members. So we're pretty proud of that. We're pretty proud of Zach and his accomplishments. Zach was kind of rare because we usually require people to be a firefighter or an EMT to start, and Zach was he was a paramedic and didn't have the firefighter certification. So we did some outside of the box thinking, and we offered Zach a position to come on and start in the fire academy, and we sponsored him through that academy, and he actually worked back to pay back some of those hours, and it worked out smoothly that when one of our gentlemen retired, Zach was he was done, he was certified as a firefighter and a paramedic, and the very first day he went on shift. So we're very proud of that. I know you were sworn in tonight, and we would ask you to read the oath for Zach, and his wife Alex would pin his badge on right after that.
The oath of a firefighter paramedic. Repeat after me. I, Zachary J. Amron,
I, Zachary J. Amron,
do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution and laws of the State of Illinois,
the Constitution and laws of the State of Illinois,
and the ordinances, rules, and regulations of the City of Lake Forest.
and the ordinances, rules, and regulations of the City of Lake Forest.
I will faithfully discharge the duties of the position of firefighter paramedic to the best of my ability.
I will faithfully discharge the duties of the position of firefighter paramedic to the best of my ability.
I further swear to uphold the mission of the Lake Forest Fire Department
I further swear to uphold the mission of the Lake Forest Fire Department
and work to fulfill its vision to the best of my ability.
and work to fulfill its vision to the best of my ability.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We're going to take everybody back to the fire station and celebrate with Zach.
Nice camaraderie that they all have. There are so many of these new appointments on here. It's always a good start.
one of the most honorable and enjoyable things of this job, and get to do it on the first night.
Yeah.
Great. I've been enormously impressed over the years, and even more so lately as I've gone through some additional orientation with the professionalism of our police and fire organizations. Just incredible. These are some of the smartest, most capable, most dedicated people you'll ever meet, and they provide great service to our neighbors and fellow residents. The next item on the agenda is comments by the city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council. I have just one item tonight, and that is recognizing summer nearly being here, and with the beach scheduled to actually open this weekend, I've asked our Public Works Director to provide an update on the progress of the Hughes Gateway Restoration Project for both the council and the public's knowledge. Our Director of Recreation is also here in the event that there are any questions regarding beach hours or procedures. And I just wanted to let everyone know that in light of the community interest in this topic, I'm going to have this be a standing monthly topic for the council until the project is completed, hopefully on time this summer. So with that, Mike, I'll turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. This evening, staff is pleased to present an update on the Hughes Gateway North Beach Access Road. Things have been going very well. We were set back a few weeks with the rain, but they actually, at that point, were a little ahead of schedule. So right now, we're thinking we're about even. The pre-construction activities, obviously, they've been accomplished. All the equipment has been mobilized. They established the construction entrances, all the road protection. But with regards to the construction, you can see they have placed the lower embankment stone, which is that big, huge mound of gravel they built up for the new road itself, this area here. They demolished all of the existing concrete road. They're going to grind that up into 3-inch as well as CA6 stone and reuse it on site. They installed the armor stone toe protection at the base, primarily down in that area. But you can see it up here in the corner as well. So that has been installed. We had some storm sewer that needed to be rerouted, cleaned and extended. That has occurred. We have brought in, as they estimate, 38% of the CA6. So 9,650 tons of the 25,000 total. The trucks will begin to roll again, we think, tomorrow down Wesley. They really had, it was, from my standpoint, the guys I work with, it was exciting to watch because they had it down within the first day. Their timing was very good. So they will continue that, Wesley to Sheridan, Deer Path to Lake, and they'll continue to bring the stone in. Obviously, some challenges over the past couple of weeks that they've had to deal with. 7.5 inches of rain and 6 3/4 inches of snow. But we've been working on that, and
Since
so,
starting in March, right?
yeah, and into April it was. So just two pictures, and this again is all this embankment fill that has been brought in, and again you can see the new outline of the new roadway, and then same thing, more of an aerial shot. This is your 2-to-1 slope here, and it was interesting watching the gentleman operating the bulldozer going vertically up and down, trying to get that grade. I'm sure he was hoping that the bulldozer wouldn't give out on him, because it's somewhat of a steep grade. But that is it. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer. But things are going smoothly, and we're going to keep going.
You know, from a sightline aspect, it looks like the new road is going to be a lot safer.
It is. It will have a softer curve on it. Something
better
that is-
visibility for
Yes.
traffic in both directions.
Yes,
right?
and we will be putting on a wood guardrail, similar to what we have on the South Beach entrance. We're going to try and mirror image that. So that's part of the project.
Can you just, I don't know exactly how to describe this. I think we're also seeing the other side of the ravine. Is that
Correct.
correct? Can you just?
Correct.
and
So-
just talk a little bit about,
Up in here?
because we have sort of a private and a.
Sure.
Condition,
Absolutely.
yeah, just,
And these pictures.
I mean, I don't
are-
even know that you'll notice it once you're coming down.
No, and
but I just
actually,
wanted-
even as of today, as you look at that portion where that soldier pile wall was installed, this portion of the ravine has now been regraded. That material was brought in purposely so they could build the wall.
Okay.
Now they're hauling all that out. The stone they are going to reuse on the bluff. But yes, and then that area, the homeowner is going to be planting. We have some plants as well to try and soften the big concrete wall as you exit the beach
But
property.
that's a private effort.
That is a private,
on a bluff that
100%.
had degraded.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
yeah.
yes.
One thing I did not appreciate, and it's nice to see it visually like this, that the road actually forms an apron around the bluff. And I'm assuming there's a protective element to that
Sure.
as well.
Yes, yes, without question. And that's, again, some of the armor stone that we brought in as well. Part of the engineering was they were studying the wave action and the energy to make sure that the material that is brought in is being protected. So, yes, absolutely.
I think they're going to have a platform going around.
Any other questions or observations? It's quite a project, and to quote my predecessor, another miracle in Lake Forest. This is outstanding, so.
Great. Well, if there are no further questions, as previously stated, we'll be back next month with another update both on the Hughes Gateway restoration and an update on how our beach procedures are going as we get into the summer months. And that concludes my report for the evening.
Thank you, Jason. Next item on the agenda is opportunity for citizens to address the city council on non-agenda items. We did this in the last meeting, so I'm assuming that was all covered in the last meeting. There being none, we'll move on to the next item, which is items for omnibus vote consideration. There are 3, not 16, so. The first is approval of the regularly scheduled meetings of the Lake Forest City Council for the year 2020. So this is just the meeting schedule. Second is authorization for the city manager to enter into a professional services agreement with Craig Bergman Landscape Design, Inc. and Mariani Landscape for professional landscape architectural services for a period of 3 years. And the third is authorization to dispose of city property. Any comments or items that anyone would like to take out separately? Yes, Alderman Marino.
Just a question on the Craig Bergman contract. Is it $20,000 per year? And is it in the budget on an annual basis? We'll be seeing that number again?
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the council. It is budgeted $20,000 this year. If you remember back 3 years ago when we first started this idea, it was actually under city council contingency funds. But last year we switched it and put it in the parks operating budget. So there is $20,000 for that. There are other departments that can utilize this as well, though. So it could potentially go over 20,000, but it would be spread out over different departments.
Thank you.
Other questions or thoughts? There being none, I would ask for a motion to take the roll call vote.
So moved.
Seconded.
Second. Okay.
Alderman Beidler?
Aye.
Alderman Morris?
Aye.
Alderman Newman?
Aye.
Alderman Rummel?
Aye.
Alderman Preschlack?
Aye.
Alderman Gashgarian?
Aye.
Alderman Moreno?
Aye.
Alderman Bushman?
Aye.
8 yeas, 0 nay, motion carries.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is additional items for discussion or comments by council members. I thought perhaps our new alderman from the 3rd Ward might want to say a few words. If not, that's okay too.
I will keep it brief, but I want to express a debt of gratitude, and I'm deeply honored to be sitting in this chair that Jack held, and I have some very big shoes to fill, and I'm going to work very hard to do so. Many of you know we had a contested election, and that's a really good thing. I think that really identifies what makes Lake Forest such a great place. It focuses in on issues. It makes us very aware as community members what's important. And it was a well-run election. I think that both my opponent and I made sure that we did what was right by the community. And I'm very grateful for the opportunity to serve. And then lastly, I just want to thank the city staff and what are now my fellow aldermen for the onboarding process. Everybody has done an incredible job of doing their best to bring me up to speed, and if there's anything you see that you want me to be aware of, give me a gentle nudge, and if that doesn't work, my wife has a baseball bat that you can use. And then lastly, I do want to thank the Lake Forest Caucus for their support and the purpose that they serve in this community, and I'm excited to serve with you, George, so thank you very much.
Well, we're excited to have you on board, and thank you for your willingness to serve. It's, as has been said before tonight, these are just citizen volunteers here. These are not professional politicians. These are just fellow neighbors and oftentimes friends who are trying to do the best thing they can for the long term for the city of Lake Forest. I have a couple of brief comments that I'd like to make. First of all, I want to reiterate something that was said in the last meeting, but from my perspective, how valuable it's been. The amount of bringing to conclusion, let's call it, that occurred in the last 2 years was nothing short of extraordinary. And I think if I can accomplish half of that in 4 years of what my predecessor accomplished in 2, I would consider that a huge success. So. And a great benefit in the sense that we are, at this point, able to step back a little bit, I think, and think about big picture items and not be consumed with controversies and challenges at the moment. I'm sure they will come, but for the moment, we can do a little deep thinking, and just really to say thank you to all of you, my neighbors, for the opportunity to serve as your mayor. I love this town. And I'm going to do everything I possibly can to reward your confidence. So thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The meeting is adjourned.